Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. Today I want to share with you all the books that I've acquired over the past few months. I'm really excited to share these books with you. A lot of them I found secondhand, which is one of my favorite things. I love going thrifting for books, and I have a local bookstore that takes some of my books that I've been unhauling and I get store credit. So I got quite a few books with that store credit and I'm so happy about that. I'm all about saving money when it comes to books, so there's that. And I was also gifted quite a few, which I am still just absolutely blown away by people's kindness. And I'm not going to be mentioning who gifted what or reading any of the notes, just because I don't want to come off as if I'm flaunting, but you know who you are. I've already said thank you to the people who have sent me these books. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they have to send a book. So again, thank you to each of you who has sent me one. It meant so much, especially with everything going on with my health. It really did mean a lot. Again, you know who you are. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. So besides the books that were gifted and thrifted, I have a pile from Book Outlet, and then the rest are just like a mix of Amazon, Indigo, etc. And also I visited a small Christian bookstore that is sort of in my area, and I am really happy with what I found there as well. So it's a nice mix. There are a lot of books to get through though, because these are all the books that I have accumulated since May. So May, June, and July, I kind of went nuts. So grab yourselves your beverage of choice, a snack if you would like to, and let's get this haul started with the books that I was gifted. Now this is a book haul, but I do have to share a couple puzzles and some coloring books that I was gifted because they are my loves besides reading as well. So I definitely need to start including puzzles that I accumulate and coloring books as well. The first one here is very different than what I normally do. It is this very realistic, I guess, picture of the Dolomites in Italy, and it is gorgeous. I wish I could live here. This is one that I think I might frame when I complete it. I don't think I've ever done a hyper realistic puzzle before, or a puzzle of an actual picture that was taken, so I'm very much looking forward to this. And I'm sure some of you know how much I love Peter Rabbit, and when I was gifted this, I can't. Look at this thing. Look at this beautiful puzzle. It is a walk in the woods, a jigsaw puzzle. It is 1,000 pieces, and I already worked on this one, and it's hard. It's a really hard one. Everything is kind of similar in terms of color tones and everything. It's not an easy puzzle, but with how much I love Peter Rabbit, this is just a treasure, and I'm so grateful for it. So this is the other puzzle that I wanted to share. I also have 3 of the Creative Haven coloring books here. This is my new favorite coloring book brand. And so first up is Country Charm. We also have Country Farm Scenes, and then Village Charm as well. And I'm so excited to have these. So these are the beautiful coloring books that I was gifted. But moving on to the books, first up here is Mrs. Jeffries and the Midwinter Murders by Emily Brightwell. This is one of the later books in the Mrs. Jeffries mystery series. There are a lot of books in this series, and I am not about to embark on starting a new series. I'm already in the middle of a bunch, so I don't mind if I just kind of pick up a few here and there. But this one is a Christmas mystery, and I'm just gonna read a very short blurb at the top. It says, Mrs. Jeffries and Inspector Witherspoon should be checking off their Christmas present lists, but instead they're listing murder suspects in this latest entry of the beloved Victorian mystery series. And it also says, if you like Downton Abbey, you'll love Mrs. Jeffries. I love Downton Abbey. This sounds like a Victorian era mystery, but with Downton Abbey vibes. So I am very excited. I don't know if I can wait until Christmas to read this because it sounds very good. And the cover is also so pretty. I'm just so excited to read this book. I was also kindly gifted books 2 and 3 in the Lady Hardcastle mystery series. Book 2 is In the Market for Murder, and book 3 is Death Around the Bend. And I am so excited to get back into this series. I need to stop saying so excited because I'm driving myself nuts. That's all I say. But I am truly so excited to read these books. I really enjoyed the first one. I think Lady Hardcastle is such a fun character, and her maid I forget her maid's name, Florence. They are so fun, and I'm just so excited to read these books. And they're like the perfect Edwardian era mystery series set in England, all coziness, nothing too serious. So much fun. This one, I believe a local farmer ends up dead at a market, and of course Lady Hardcastle and Florence try to figure out what happened. And then this one has to do with automobile racing, and someone dies in the race, and it seems to be a lot more sinister than just an accidental death. So very much looking forward to reading these. A couple more cozy mysteries here. We have The Tale of Holly Howe and The Tale of Cuckoo Brow Wood. Okay, so I already read this one and talked about it in one of my wrap-ups. I don't quite remember which one it was, but I loved this book so much, and I'm so excited to get into this book as well. These are books 2 and 3 in the Cottage Tales series, where Beatrix Potter is a character and there are talking animals, and it is the most precious thing. And I highly recommend this series if you love cozy mysteries and if you love cottagecore, Edwardian era England, and of course if you love Peter Rabbit and all things Beatrix Potter. I would highly recommend the series, and I can't wait to read the 3rd book. We also have The Viscount and the Vicar's Daughter by Mimi Matthews. I have only read one Mimi Matthews book, but I know she will become a favorite author just based off of that book. And it was a very short one. This is also quite short, but I'm so excited for this one. So it says, a world-weary rake. After years of unbridled debauchery, Tristan Sinclair, Viscount St. Ashton, has hit proverbial rock bottom. Seeking to escape his melancholy, he takes refuge at one of Victorian society's most notorious house parties. As the Christmas season approaches, he prepares to settle in for a month of heavy drinking until an unexpected encounter changes his plans and threatens his heart. Valentine March is not the drab little spinster she appears to be. When her new job as a lady's companion lands her smack in the middle of Yorkshire with England's most infamous rake, she resolves to keep her head down and her eyes fixed firmly on her future, a future which most definitely does not include a sinfully handsome viscount. A match made in scandal. A friendship is impossible, an affair out of the question, but when one reckless act binds them together, will 2 star-crossed souls discover there's more to each other than meets the eye? Or will revelations from the past end their fragile romance before it begins? I'm excited. I'm really excited for this book. From the Christmas story that I read by Mimi Matthews, Holiday by Gaslight, I know already that I love her writing, so I'm very much looking forward to this and have high hopes. On a very different note, we have a fantasy, an epic fantasy, and that is The Ember Blade by Chris Wooding. And this one I heard is perfect for fans of Lord of the Rings, and it just kind of has that adventure vibe, so I'm very intrigued. I've heard amazing things about this, and I think I'm gonna enjoy it, so fingers crossed. I have not read very many epic fantasies, but the ones I have read, I have loved. So again, fingers crossed. I think I will enjoy it. It sounds really good. It says, a land under occupation, a legendary sword, a young man's journey to find his destiny. I don't know if it's Arin or Aaron. I'm just gonna go with Aaron. Aaron has lived by the rules all his life. He's never questioned it. That's just the way things are. But then his father is executed for treason, and he and his best friend Cade are thrown into a prison mine, doomed to work until they drop, unless they can somehow break free. But what lies beyond the prison walls is even worse. Rescued by a man who hates him, yet is oath-bound to protect him, pursued by inhuman forces, Aaron slowly accepts that the rules are not there to protect him, or his people, but to enslave them. A revolution is brewing, and Aaron is being drawn into it, whether he likes it or not. The Ember Blade is the key, the sword of kings, the Excalibur of his people, but it's locked in an impenetrable vault in the most heavily guarded fortress in the land. All they have to do is steal it. And then it says, if you love Brandon Sanderson, you'll love this. So fingers crossed. And this last one from the gifted pile, I literally cried when it came in the mail. Look at her. Is she not the most beautiful thing you have ever seen? Okay. I just have to say though, Amazon, what is this? What is that? Very disappointing. Besides that, is this not the most beautiful book you have ever seen? I mean, if you hate winter, maybe not, but I am so happy. Just holding this makes me so happy. I'm not the biggest collector of multiple editions of the same book, But with classics, with my favorite books that are classics, I don't care. I want all the editions. Little Women, Anne of Green Gables, the Jane Austen books. I will literally get all the editions that I can get my hands on. And I was gifted this one, and like I said, I cried. And oh my goodness, it is stunning. So this is the Harper Muse painted edition, and they have come out with some gorgeous, gorgeous painted editions. There is a beautiful Anne of Green Gables one. I'll put some of them on the screen that I'm just obsessed with. There's one for Persuasion, Frankenstein, just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. And I love paintings. I love kind of acrylic paintings with that feel of like layers to them, and this one definitely has that feel, and oh, I'm just obsessed. Here's the back. Mr. Lawrence's house, and we have Orchard House. Oh, my heart. And this one has Little Women and Good Wives in it, so it's the full like official story. Little Women is my favorite book of all time, if you didn't know. So yeah, I shed tears over this. I am beyond thankful. Yeah, I'm gonna move on, otherwise I could just talk about this all day. All right, so moving on to all of the book outlet books. I first have some Agatha Christie's that I bought. I accidentally bought 2 copies of one book. So I got 2 copies of the ABC Murders, and maybe I'll just do a giveaway with one of these. So if any of you are interested in that, let me know in the comments and I'll do a giveaway. But yeah, I don't know where my brain was. I got 2 copies. I'm not going to be reading the summaries for the Agatha Christie books just because I typically go in blind. I forgot to mention the ABC Murders is a Poirot story. And 3 other Poirots, we have Curtain. This is the very last Poirot novel. So I'm going to try and save this one to read after I've read all of the other Poirot stories. Then we have Dumb Witness and Taken at the Flood. And this last Agatha Christie, I believe, is a standalone, and that is Why Didn't They Ask Evans? This next one, I honestly don't know why I got it because it's not really calling to me, and I don't know if I want to read it. But that book is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. I've heard really, really good things about her, but I should have taken a hint from the little blurb at the top. It says, I Capture the Castle meets Gatsby. I'm not the biggest fan of either of those. I know that's unpopular, but the one thing though is I do like the 1920s as a setting, and this is set in the 20s. But then I looked through it, and it is not only first person, which is not my favorite thing, especially in YA, and I believe this is YA, but it's also in present tense, and I really don't like those two mixed. It was really cheap on Book Outlet. I'll give it a try. I don't have very high hopes, but maybe that'll end up helping me actually enjoy the story. But it says, summer blooms beneath an inky velvet sky. Lou Trevelyan is swept into the glittering world of the Cardew siblings. Bubbly Caitlin and her handsome, enigmatic brother Robert inhabit high society, a life filled with wild moonlit parties and unrivaled glamour. Lou is dazzled, and then she begins to hear the whispers. Something dark lurks just beyond the charm of this sparkling lifestyle. The Cardews have secrets, and Lou is desperate to find out what they are. As she falls deeper into their world and deeper in love, Lou must find a way to stay true to herself and her heart. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I bought this because it's not my thing. But we'll see. I will give it a fair try and we'll go from there. I got 2 other Mimi Matthews books and I'm very excited. So we have The Siren of Sussex and The Belle of Belgrave Square, books 1 and 2 in a series. I don't know if it's a duology or if there will be more books in the series, but very excited is the Bells of London series. The summaries on the back are extremely long. I'm not gonna read them. I believe the second book has the marriage of convenience trope, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we'll see what I think. Victorian era romances, very excited. This next book I wanted to read for Jane Austen July, but it's really long and the font is really, really small. So I'm actually glad that I ended up not making myself read this month, and I will save it for next July. This month was just too busy, but I'm talking about Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley. I've heard really, really good things about this biography, and I love all things Jane Austen. So even though I'm not a nonfiction person, I really struggle with nonfiction. I generally don't find it interesting at all and would rather just watch documentaries if I'm going to consume nonfiction content. I still think I will enjoy this. So Jane Austen at Home, is just a biography about Jane Austen, the homes that she lived in, her family members, just basically everything about her life. And yeah, I'm just really intrigued. But as I was saying, that is tiny font. And this is not a short book. It's over 300 pages. So yeah, like this is gonna need my brain power and some good glasses. So that is Jane Austen at home. We have a couple more books that have to do with Jane Austen, and I was of course inspired to buy these because it's Jane Austen July. This next one I've heard really good things about, and that is Jane and the Year Without a Summer by Stephanie Barron. I know this is very late in the series. This is part of a mystery series where Jane Austen is like an amateur sleuth, if I'm not mistaken. And I tried the first book and DNF'd it last year. I just wasn't feeling it at the time. That doesn't mean the writing was terrible. It was actually very reminiscent of Jane Austen's writing. It felt like a classic, but I just wasn't really into the first book. But I have heard that the more recent ones in the series are really, really good. So I have no problem just jumping in with this one. A lot of people have only read the later ones in the series. And also this cover is gorgeous. And even though the summary is a bit long, I have to read it. It sounds really good. So it says, May 1816. Jane Austen is feeling unwell with an uneasy stomach, constant fatigue, rashes, fevers, and aches. She attributes her poor condition to the stress of family burdens, which even the drafting of her latest manuscript about a baronet's daughter nursing a broken heart for a daring naval captain cannot alleviate. Her apothecary recommends a trial of the curative waters at Cheltenham Spa in Gloucestershire. Jane decides to use some of the profits earned from her last novel, Emma, and treat herself to a period of rest and reflection at the spa in the company of her sister Cassandra. Cheltenham Spa hardly turns out to be the relaxing sojourn Jane and Cassandra envisaged, however. It is extremely obvious that the other boarders at the guest house where the Mrs. Austen are staying have come to Cheltenham with stresses of their own, some of them deadly. But perhaps with Jane's interference, a terrible crime might be prevented. And then it says this is set during the year without a summer when the eruption of Mount Tambora in the South Pacific caused a volcanic winter that shrouded the entire planet for 16 months. So yeah, I've heard really good things about this and it sounds really good. I'm very excited. This next one I've had my eye on for over a year now, but I just never really had the desire to read it for some reason until Amanda from Book Lover Amanda read it and she ended up loving it, and it was on Book Outlet, so decided to grab it. And that is The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. And this one is all about Mary Bennet, who we don't get very much of in Pride and Prejudice. So I'm very, very excited to see what this author has done with Mary Bennet's story. I heard it's really, really good. I don't want to know too much going into this one, but I do believe it's just about Mary finding fulfillment and like her chance at finding happiness, because she doesn't really get that in Pride and Prejudice. So very, very, very intrigued. And this last one from Book Outlet, I think is the one that I was most excited about. I think I'm going to love this, okay? If Little Women is my favorite book of all time, I need to love this book. And I've heard amazing things about it. I believe the general consensus is the way that the author tells Marmee's story. It is beautiful and so well done. And I'm so excited, and I can't wait to read this. Also, that is beautiful. Just this whole book is gorgeous. I love winter. I love that we have orchard house on the front cover. I'm so excited. The only thing I know about this, and all I want to know, is that it is set during the events of Little Women, but all from Marmee's perspective. And I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to read that. We don't really get in her brain and in her psyche in Little Women. She's very much just there to support her daughters, but she has to deal with her husband being an army chaplain in the Civil War. He's not in the home with them all the time, and then they're suffering financially. So much falls on her shoulders, and I believe that's what this book deals with. So I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, so excited. All right, so moving on to the rest of the books. This is like a mix of Indigo, the Christian bookstore, and a lot of thrifted books as well. So I'm very, very happy about that. The first three here I've already talked about in wrap-ups because I read them fairly quickly after buying them. So I'm not going to talk about what they're about. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on them, you'll be able to in the wrap-ups. But We First Have the Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I think I read this one in May, so I'll have that wrap up linked below. We also have The Ladies of Ivy Cottage by Julie Klassen, and this one I read in June. And then we also have A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin, and this one I read this month actually, so you'll hear my thoughts about this in my July wrap up. All right, so first we'll go over some Christian books, and I have a couple that are like historical fiction, but secular historical fiction. I think I have one fantasy, and then the rest are classics. So I'm very excited to share these with you. First up is another nonfiction, which the fact that I even have 2 nonfictions in this book haul blows my mind because I'm not a nonfiction person. So this book I got because Tiffany and Dia, they had read it together, and I'm not sure, I forget if there were other people reading with them, but they talked a little bit about this, and I didn't watch all of their discussions on the book just because I want to read it first, but that book is The Knowledge of the Holy by Tozer. I've always been interested in reading his works, but I'm always intimidated by nonfiction, especially when it's Christian nonfiction. It just makes it even more intimidating for me, but this one is extremely short, and each section, each chapter is very, very short. So I believe it's perfect for me just because I can read little bits at a time and just really take time to absorb what's being said. And just the way that this book has been talked of, it sounds incredible. And I think it's one that I definitely need to read at this season in life that I'm in. So it says, what is the nature of God? How can we recapture a real sense of God's majesty and truly live in the Spirit? This beloved book, a modern classic of Christian testimony and devotion, addresses these and other vital questions, showing how we can rejuvenate our prayer life, meditate more reverently, understand God more deeply, and experience God's presence in our daily lives. The Knowledge of the Holy illuminates God's attributes from wisdom to grace to mercy, and shows through prayer and insightful discussion how we can more fully recognize and appreciate each of these divine aspects. This book bears eloquent witness to God's majesty, showing us new ways to experience and understand the wonder and power of God's Spirit in our daily lives. I'm very intrigued, so high hopes, and yeah, we'll see what I think. Next up is a highly anticipated biblical fiction. It came out back in May, still haven't read it, but I'm just so excited. And that is In Feast or Famine by Misu Andrews. This is the second book in the Egyptian Chronicles duology. I really appreciate how Misu Andrews fictionalizes Bible events without making it feel like she's taking things way too out of the realm of possibility, if you will. So I'm very, very, very excited for this. So it says, after 4-year-old Asenath's mother is murdered by Egypt's foreign rulers, the child is raised to be a priestess by her overprotective father, high priest of Egypt's sun god. For 15 years, Asenath is sequestered in the upper levels of Ra's temple, convinced it is her destiny to heal the land by becoming queen to the next Egyptian pharaoh. But when Egypt's foreign king instead gives her as a bride to the newly appointed vizier, a Hebrew named Joseph, her entire world is shaken. Beyond the walls of her tower, Asenath discovers treachery, deceit, and conspiracy that force her to redefine her destiny and weigh where her true loyalties lie. Can she still trust the gods of Egypt, or is Elohim, the foreign god of her husband, the one who will heal her nation during the feast and famine to come? I think this sounds so good, and I'm so excited. Misu Andrews does no wrong. She's an incredible biblical fiction author, and I need to pick this up sooner rather than later. I also got 3 Jamie Jo Wrights, which I'm very excited for. She is a Christian author I tend to gravitate towards in the fall, and it goes without saying. She writes spooky books, but without any, I guess, like spiritual element, which I really appreciate. So first up, we have The Souls of Lost Lake, and I believe all 3 of these are dual timeline. So it says, Wren Blythe has long enjoyed living in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, helping her father with ministry at a youth camp. But when a little girl in the area goes missing, an all-out search ensues, reviving the decades-old campfire story of Ava Coons, the murderess who is believed to still roam the forest. Joining the search, Wren stumbles upon the Coons' cabin ruins and a sinister mystery she is determined to unearth. And then in 1930, Ava Coons has spent the last several years carrying the mantle of mystery since the day she emerged from the woods as a 13-year-old girl spattered with blood, dragging a logger's axe. She has accepted she will never remember what happened to her family, whose bodies were never found, and that the people of Tempter's Creek will always blame her for their violent deaths. After a member of the town is murdered and another goes missing, rumors spread that Ava's secret is perhaps more malicious than previously imagined. Two women, separated by time, must confront a wickedness that not only challenges who they are, but also threatens their lives and the lives of those they love. That sounds very suspenseful, and I'm very intrigued. We also have The Vanishing at Castle Moreau, and this one says, in 1870, orphaned Daisy Francois takes a position as housemaid at a Wisconsin castle to escape the horrors of her past life. There, she finds a reclusive and eccentric Gothic authoress who hides tales more harrowing than the ones in her novels. As women disappear from the area and the eerie circumstances seem to parallel a local legend, Daisy is thrust into a web that could ultimately steal her sanity, if not her life. In the present day, Cleo Clemens is hired by the grandson of an American aristocratic family to help his grandmother face her hoarding in the dilapidated Castle Moreau. But when Cleo uncovers more than just the women's stash of collectibles, a century-old mystery and the dust of the old castle's curse threaten to rise again. This time to leave no one alive to tell the sordid tale. The fact that it's set in a castle and it feels gothic, I am very, very intrigued. And then finally, we have The Premonition at Withers Farm. This one says, in 1910 Michigan, Pearliette Van Hilton is a self-proclaimed rural healer, leaving the local doctor convinced she practices quackery. It doesn't help that her mother is a spiritualist who regularly offers her services to connect the living with their dearly departed. But when Pearliette is targeted by a superstitious killer, she must rely on both the local doctor and an intriguing newcomer for assistance. In the present day, Molly, don't know how to say her last name, Molly's life has not gone the way she dreamed. Facing depression after several miscarriages, Molly is adapting to her husband's purchase of a peculiar old farm. A search for a family tree pulls Molly deep into a century-old murder case and a web of deception, all made more mysterious by the disturbing shadows and sounds inside the farmhouse. Pearliette fights for her life, and Molly seeks renewed purpose for hers as she uncovers the records of the dead. Will their voices be heard, or will time forever silence their truths? That sounds really good, so very excited. Now we have two more that are Christian fiction. So the first one here is The Love Note by Joanna Davidson Politano. I've read one other book by her. I believe it's Lady Jane Disappears, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't an all-time favorite, but this one does sound really good, and I have heard this one is a lot better. So it says, focused on a career in medicine and not on romance, Willa Duvall is thrown slightly off course during the summer of 1865 when she discovers a never-opened love letter in the crack of her old writing desk. Compelled to find the passionate soul who penned it and the person who never received it, she takes a job as a nurse at the seaside estate of Crestwick Manor. Everyone at Crestwick has feelings, mostly negative ones, about the man who wrote the letter, but he seems to have disappeared. With plenty of enticing clues but few answers, Willa's search becomes even more complicated when she misplaces the letter and it passes from person to person in the house, each finding a thrilling or disheartening message in its words. Laced with mysteries large and small, this romantic Victorian-era tale of love lost, love deferred, and love found is sure to delight. It sounds like a very sweet story, so I'm hoping I enjoy it, and we shall see. And this last one for the Christian fiction, I'm very, very excited to read. I read another one by this author this year and really loved it. And the book is Codename Edelweiss, and this is by Stephanie Lansom. So I read In a Far Off Land by her, and it was so, so good, and I'm very excited for this book as well. This one is set in the 30s when Adolf Hitler is rising to power, so it's not quite World War II, but it's the years leading up to World War II. It says, in the summer of 1933, Hitler is the new, powerful anti-Semitic Chancellor of Germany. But in Los Angeles, no-nonsense secretary Liesel Weiss has concerns closer to home. The Great Depression is tightening its grip, and Liesel is the sole supporter of two children, an opinionated mother, and a troubled brother. Jewish lawyer Leon Lewis has watched Hitler's rise to power and increasing anti-Semitism in America with growing alarm. He believes Nazi agents are working to seize control of Hollywood, the world's greatest propaganda machine. The trouble is, authorities scoff at his dire warnings. When Liesel loses her job at MGM, her only choice is to work with Leon Lewis and the mysterious Agent 13 to spy on her friends and neighbors in her German-American community. What Lewis and his spies find is more chilling and more dangerous than any of them expected. Codename Edelweiss is based on a true story, unknown until recent years, how a lone Jewish lawyer and a handful of amateur spies discovered and foiled Adolf Hitler's plan to take over Hollywood. I am so excited to read this book. I love Stephanie Lansom's writing. I've really loved the other books I've read by her, so very, very excited. Next up is a book by an author I have been wanting to try for a very long time and still have not read from her, and that is What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon. Every single time Gloria from Gloria Z. Thompson. I'll link her channel below. Every time she talks about Amy Harmon, I'm like, I need to read her books. I need to pick up one of her books. And I decided to try this one first because it has time travel in it, which I rarely ever read, but I love when I do read it. And this one says, Anne grew up enchanted by her grandfather's stories of Ireland. Heartbroken by his death, she travels to his childhood home to spread his ashes. There, overcome with memories of the man she adored and consumed by a history she never knew, she is pulled into another time. The Ireland of 1921, teetering on the edge of war, is a dangerous place in which to awaken. But there, Anne finds herself, hurt, disoriented, and under the care of Dr. Thomas Smith, guardian to a young boy who is oddly familiar. Mistaken for the boy's long-missing mother, Anne adopts her identity, convinced the woman's disappearance is connected to her own. As tensions rise, Thomas joins the struggle for Ireland's independence, and Anne is drawn into the conflict beside him. Caught between history and her heart, she must decide whether she's willing to let go of the life she knew for a love she never thought she'd find. But in the end, is the choice actually hers to make? I have very, very high hopes for this book, so I need to try Amy Harmon. This next one is a book that I plan on buddy reading in August with a friend, and I did get it from the library. I got both the ebook and the audiobook, but then I saw it at a local bookstore and I decided to buy it because I think I will love this book, and I know Amanda recently read it and she loved it. So that is The Circus Train by Amita Parikh. So it says, Lena has never quite found her place within the circus, even as the daughter of the extraordinary headlining illusionist Theo. Brilliant and curious, Lena yearns for the real-world magic of science and medicine despite her father's overprotection and the limits her world places on her because she's disabled. Her unconventional life takes an exciting turn when she rescues Alexander, an orphan with his own secrets and mysterious past. As their friendship flourishes over several years and Alexander trains as the illusionist's apprentice, World War II escalates around them. When Theo and Alexander find themselves contracted to work and perform in a model town for Jews that was set up by the Nazis, Lena is separated from everything she knows. Forced to make her own way, she must confront her doubts and dare to believe in the impossible herself. Full of the power of believing in magic of all kinds, The Circus Train takes readers on a heart-wrenching and spectacular 2-decade journey across Europe. Along the way, it asks a vital question. When all is lost, how do you find the courage to keep moving forward? Very, very excited. And I also believe this one has representation around polio, which I've never read that in a book. So I'm very, very, very excited. And I've heard amazing things. And because Amanda loved it, I think I will too. And yeah, very excited. All right, and then the last book before moving on to the classics, we have a fantasy. I guess it's historical fantasy or historical magical realism. I'm not quite sure. But that is The Keeper of Enchanted Rooms by Charlie Holmberg. And I've heard really good things about this one. So it says, Rhode Island, 1846. Estranged from his family, writer Merritt Fernsby is surprised when he inherits a remote estate in the something Bay. Not sure how to pronounce that. Though the property has been uninhabited for more than a century, Merritt is ready to call it home until he realizes he has no choice. With its doors slamming shut and locking behind him, Wimbrel House is not about to let Merritt leave. Ever. Hulda Larkin of the Boston Institute for the Keeping of Enchanted Rooms has been trained in taming such structures in order to preserve their historical and magical significance. She understands the dangers of bespelled homes given to tantrums. She advises that it's in Merritt's best interests to make Wimbrel House their ally. To do that, she'll need to move in too. Prepared as she is with augury, a set of magic tools, and a new staff trained in the uncanny, Hulda's work still proves unexpectedly difficult. She and Merritt grow closer as the investigation progresses, but the house's secrets run deeper than they anticipated, and the sentient walls aren't their only concern. Something outside is coming for the enchantments of Wimbrel House, and it could be more dangerous than what rattles within. I've heard it's a very fun, sweet story and very magical, very whimsical, and it is the first book in a series, so I'm very, very intrigued. All right, and the rest of these books are all classics, and I generally don't go into classics knowing a lot about them. I don't really like to read summaries or anything, so hopefully it won't take too long to get through these. The first one here I found at a used bookstore, and this is actually a first edition. So this book came out in 1946, and this is a 1946 edition. And that is The King's General by Daphne du Maurier. So very, very excited to have this. No idea what it's about, but it's Daphne du Maurier, and I want to read it. So I'm very, very happy about this find. This next one is a modern classic, and I believe it was published in the 60s, and that is The Unexpected Mrs. Polifax by Dorothy Gilman. And I believe it's about a woman in her 60s that works for the CIA, and I heard it's really funny, and that's all I needed to know. It sounds great. And I believe this one is set in Mexico, so very excited. Then we have another modern classic from the 50s, and that is Madam Will You Talk by Mary Stewart. And this one, all I know about it is a mystery thriller from the 50s set in the south of France. So very excited. I read a Mary Stewart in June and really enjoyed it, and I've heard this one is one of her best. So Madam Will You Talk, very, very excited. I also got Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I don't know what this is about. It's just a short Elizabeth Gaskell story. And what I do know though is it's set when the Industrial Revolution is really kicking off in the Victorian era, and it's like a small town and small town things going on, and yeah, it's Elizabeth Gaskell. That's all I needed to know. Very excited, and not sure how I feel about the edition. I don't know if I like the cover. Not really a fan of the colors, but that's Cranford. Next up is Jane of Lantern Hill by Ella Montgomery, and this one I've heard mixed things about. So from what I know, it's about a girl named Jane who grew up basically without a father. Then all of a sudden she finds out he's actually alive, and she ends up going and living with him. So she leaves Toronto, where she was living with her mom and grandmother in this mansion, and moves to Prince Edward Island, where her father is living. And I've heard from other people who have talked about this book that it was just very odd that he's just not a part of her life, and then all of a sudden he decides to be a part of her life. So I'm very curious to see where the story goes, and it's Ella Montgomery. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, and either way I know I will enjoy the writing. Even if I don't like the story all that much, I will enjoy the writing. So I'm still excited to read this book, and I love these Tundra editions. I love the covers, so very excited. A few months ago, I read Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope and really, really loved it. And almost immediately after I finished the book, I ordered books 4, 5, and 6 in the Barsetshire series because I need to continue the series. Dr. Thorne was the 3rd book, and I now have books 4, 5, and 6. So we have Framley Parsonage. This is book 4. And then we have The Small House at Allington, which is book 5. And then the last book, which is the biggest one, and that is The Last Chronicle of Barset, and that is quite the chunker, but I'm so excited to have these books, put them in the proper order. I'm just so excited. Now I have the entire Barsetshire series, and I believe these all have to do with different characters as well. Each book kind of has different characters at the heart of the story, but you'll see characters from other books that you recognize and they show up, and that's really nice. But I'm very excited to continue on. I was hoping to get this entire series read by the end of this year. I don't think that will happen, but if I can read at least Framley Parsonage by the end of the year, that would be great. Maybe even Framley Parsonage and The Small House at Allington during Victober, that would be awesome. So I'm very excited to have these books. Very, very excited. I also got the 2nd volume from the James Herriot memoirs, and this is All Things Bright and Beautiful. So it has technically books 3 and 4. The 1st volume has books 1 and 2 technically. So it's basically a memoir about James Herriot's life as a vet in Yorkshire, and in this one he is now married, and I'm just so excited to get back into this fictionalized look into what it's like being a vet for a lot of farmers and livestock and things like that. The 1st book was precious, and it's nonfiction as well. It's a memoir, which generally is not my thing, but I loved it. I loved it so much, so I'm very, very excited to read this one. There's just so much heart and humor, and yeah, very excited. Over the past couple years, I've also been collecting Charles Dickens books wherever I can find them at thrift stores, and the last one that I was looking for was Our Mutual Friend, and I found it. Technically, I still need The Mystery of Edwin Drood, but that isn't like one of his fully finished works. But out of his completed works, this was the last one that I wanted to find, and I found it, and it's in fairly good condition for being found at a secondhand bookstore. So very excited about that. This is also a 90s edition, so whoever had it took very, very good care of it. But I love these older 90s Wordsworth editions. And yeah, Our Mutual Friend. I have heard this is an incredible book, and I know a lot of people who say this is their favorite, so it's gonna be a while until I get to it, but I'm very excited. I also have a short list of books that I want to read that were published in the 1700s, and this book, Tom Jones by Henry Fielding, is on that list. And I don't really know much about it. It is quite large, very small font, but I've heard it's really funny, and I am getting more comfortable with 1700s literature. It's still much more verbose than a lot of classics that I've read, but I'm currently reading a Frances Burney book, and that book is huge and very wordy, but I'm loving it. So I have high hopes for this, and I love that I love this cover as well. I love these older Penguin editions, and yeah, so glad I found this also in great condition. I also got some Shakespeare, which I am very, very happy about. So from the Folger editions, I got Henry IV Part 1 and Richard II. So not sure which one I should read first. I do have a list of his histories and the order in which you should read them, so I guess I'll go in that order, but I think it will be a very, very long journey with Shakespeare. I don't think I'll get all of his plays read until I'm probably in my 40s, and that's okay, but it's fun to collect and it's fun to get these secondhand as well. I love the Folger editions as well. They have a lot of helpful little notes at the side here that kind of explain the meanings of certain things, and yeah, very excited. And then we have this 3-in-1. So this collection has Pericles, Cymbeline, and the Two Noble Kinsmen. This one unfortunately doesn't have as many notes to help while you're reading. It just has like a little tiny bit at the bottom, but that's fine. There are so many resources online that can help with Shakespeare. And the more you read Shakespeare, the easier it is to understand what you're reading. So I am looking forward to these ones as well. All right, and the very last book for this book haul and the last classic that I want to share is the classic that I am most excited about. This is an edition that I am so happy that I was able to find, and I found it at a used bookstore, and it made my heart so happy, especially because I know a few people on Goodreads and YouTube who are currently reading this or have recently read it and really loved it, and it's by Anthony Trollope, and I want to read everything he's ever written. And that is The Belton Estate by Anthony Trollope, and this is a Folio Society edition, but this is from the 90s. So this one is the 1999 edition. So this one is a second printing from 1999, but the original was from 1991. There's just that inner page with a beautiful illustration. And if you know anything about the Folio Society, you know how expensive their books are. It is insane how expensive their editions are. And even this one at a used bookstore, it still wasn't it wasn't expensive, but it wasn't super cheap. It was cheaper because it doesn't have the slipcase, but anyways, it has like the green, well, that's not green, but it has like the green on the top. And I love like it's like in between mint and sage green. I'm obsessed, and like dark green is my favorite color, and yeah, I'm obsessed with how this looks. And my favorite part about this entire book is just the gorgeous illustrations and the style, just that pencil drawing style. Like, how beautiful is that? Just one more. But yeah, I have heard incredible things about the Belton Estate, and again, when I saw this edition, I was just so blown away. And honestly, it's mainly because it's the Folio Society. They're not cheap, and it's just so beautiful. I'm so happy about this find. And it's Anthony Trollope, and I want to read everything he's written, so very happy about this. All right, friends, so that is it for this huge book haul. I really should go on another book buying ban, but that didn't really work out for me this year. So anyways, I would love to hear if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them, if you've read them, if you loved them, if you didn't love them. I would love to know. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. It means so much to me that you took time out of your day to watch my videos. Thank you so much. And that is it for this video. So I will see you all in my next one. Bye.